Start off this morning with a little competition. We've had two services prior to this one today. 7:45 is in the lead. We'll see how you do. I'm not going to tell you what the competition is. It just begins now. I'll give you all I got to give if you say you'll love me too. Okay. I may not have a lot to give, but what I got, I'll give to you. Ooh, okay. I don't care too much for money. Money can't... 11:15. Racing ahead takes the win. Well done. All right. Paul McCartney wrote it. John Lennon got co-credit for it. I don't know why. He doesn't even know why. He wrote later on that he thought it was always Paul's song. 1964. One of a couple of different sentiments that we might say are representative of some thoughts going on in the middle of the 20th century. The 20th century is a time in this post-industrial booming economy, with the West altogether, but especially in the United States, when we were coming to terms with all sorts of things related to wealth and abundance that we had not experienced before in most of human history. And so there were competing sentiments, some not quite as likely to be heard on the radio as McCartney's single there. I want to give you something representative of another sentiment that was growing in popularity in the 20th century. It goes like this: if everyone were satisfied, no one would buy the new thing, because no one would want it. The ore then wouldn't be mined, timber wouldn't be cut. Almost immediately, hard times would be upon us. You must accept this reasonable dissatisfaction with what you have and buy the new thing, or accept hard times. You can have your choice. Those words were penned by Charles Kettering. You might recognize the Kettering name from Memorial Sloan Kettering Hospital. They were written in 1929 when he was head of research for General Motors. A lot of corporations were coming to terms with the fact that there was an abundance of disposable income and disposable time, and really there was an opportunity for tremendous growth. Consumerism would be what it would be called later. It would take some time before we use that name. Consumerism and the seeking of our deepest satisfaction from the attaining of possessions, retail therapy, these are all ideas that took off in the 20th century. It came to prominence in profound and widespread ways. But it's not fair to say that they were new. For as long as there have been humans providing archaeological evidence anyway, we have these indications that human beings have loved to hold possessions as a way of signaling status or significance. Social psychologists would tell us that really as long as there are ever two people who want one thing, they will compete. And they will try to figure out how one can hold that thing, and when one holds that thing, one will say, well, that thing is mine, and I am more valuable than you because I have it and you don't. It shouldn't come as a surprise to us, that being a part of human history as far back as we go, that Jesus has some things to say about it all. He spends considerable time addressing poverty and wealth and the morality of those who are trying to navigate a society that can produce both poverty and wealth. And so when we encounter this scene in the gospel today where a person in the crowd yells out and asks Jesus to settle a legal dispute about family inheritance, an all too common experience, as many of you know. And by the way, if you have not made proper plans for what will happen after you die, there's a next stage seminar. You probably saw something about it when you came in. A little plug here for that. It's an important thing for us to take care of. I also was reminded earlier today, I was looking for it, there's a rule in the prayer book. That prayer book that you have in your pew back tells me that I'm supposed to tell you to make sure that you take care of your will. And I was looking for that earlier today, because I know it's in there somewhere, and I was looking around the burial services, because that's where you would expect it to be, right? It's not there. It took me a minute to remember. It's when we offer thanksgiving for a new child. What a great time for parents to remember that they need to do all that is necessary so that generations ahead can continue in strength. Well, this brother and the other brother had not done whatever was necessary for them to not have a legal dispute over the family inheritance, so he comes to Jesus. Wise Rabbi, please settle this for us. And Jesus does not at all address the concerns of the person from the crowd as that man would have liked, but instead, as he often does, he turned it into a teaching moment. But a teaching moment about what was really at the heart of the matter, and what so often is at the heart of the matter. As is ever the case, this short parable from Jesus is evocative, and it's saturated with meaningful details. You've probably heard about some of them before. You may have heard exactly the detail that I'm about to name before you. It's my favorite one about the story, so I'm going to name it anyway. There are at least 11 self-referential thoughts or statements made by the rich man with the barns. It helps to go back and read it again and underline. You may just listen and I'll emphasize them for you. He thought to himself, "What should I do? For I have no place to store my crops." And then he said, "I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, 'Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry.'" I think that was 11. Could have miscounted. While it may be too much, too burdensome to apply a word like narcissism to this character, it does seem as if the flaw in his character goes beyond mere greed. Maybe that's part of what Jesus means when he says that there are all kinds of greed. It's not just about the love of possessions. It can be more than that. There are many ways that a heart can be turned toward this sort of disordered centering of one's own desires. One need not look at the love of money as the only definitive nature of greed. For making that argument, it would be worth noting here that Jesus doesn't set the farmer up as wicked for having had a successful business, or for having accumulated some wealth, or for having a great harvest. Instead, it seems to be that it's because his singular focus is on his own gain, and he's eliminated any possibility of reference to somebody else. What about his friends, his neighbors, his spouse, his child, the poor and needy, members of his synagogue? No, he lives for himself. And he evaluates the quality of his life on the basis of his possessions. And as a result, he is not and perhaps cannot be satisfied. That's what Kettering was looking for. A heart that cannot be satisfied because it must constantly consume and look for new possessions. This one is far from the love of God and the love of neighbor that could become central in his life. He only heard the part about loving your neighbor as yourself, and he heard self and said, "That sounds good." Off he goes, runs away with that one. But we must reorient our hearts toward love of God and neighbor if we are to follow Jesus. St. David's, we are fond of saying, or at least some of us are really fond of saying, that relationships come first. It's a way that we like to express and condense a lot of the different teachings of Jesus about loving our neighbor. It can be hard to do. It's hard to live that way, to put our relationships first. But it has to be that way for the sake of any kind of life that we can call good. When we have a solid relationship with God, when we have a solid relationship with neighbor, then we are provided with these necessary opportunities to practice abundance within community and to order or reorder our desires alongside the common good. Our frame of reference for what is good changes. Our frame of reference for what constitutes a good life moves from the epicenter of our own desire. The truth that we know is that money and power and fame, those things we can kind of be greedy for from time to time, and any one of us can be susceptible to it. The thoughts just kind of appear sometimes. At least they do in my head. I don't know about you. Where I think, gosh, if I just had a little bit more, if I could just replace this stained couch, if I could just get a new car, if I could just whatever, then surely then I will be happy. Poof, there is the thought. Hopefully we have what is necessary to put it aside. But we know that money and power and fame can be worth a lot. Can do a lot of things, some of them even good. Heck, even Paul McCartney later on said he was wrong about some of the stuff he wrote in that song. But he was right about this. Money cannot buy love. And anyone who evaluates the quality of their life on mere possessions and not on love will surely always be dissatisfied. What Jesus teaches, what we must hear, what provides the impetus to reframe and reorient is that only in loving relationship with God and with neighbor can we find what is lasting, what is truly satisfying, and what leads to a life worth living. Amen.